Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here on a fairly misty looking day today in the Commonwealth. So we're still in the West Roxbury area to talk about some of the locations here. So the one place that we haven't visited is the hospital. We'll go in the front door, though. So yeah, you can get access to the second floor from the parking garage that we visited last week. So it's a very interesting hospital actually, this one. The history is quite interesting. I do think this is cool, the little kind of 3D green cross thing. It's not something that you see very often. Obviously designates this as a medical place, so kind of makes sense. Here we go. So yep, this hospital before the war was essentially funded by church donations and municipal funding until automated surgery came along, and the hospital then replaced all of its staff with doctor and nurse handy models, which is certainly a choice. It's certainly a choice. Also, I find it kind of odd that the waiting room they're like church pews instead of proper like benches, which is interesting. But yeah, we can see there's some people that unfortunately died while in the waiting room of this hospital. And we've got, cigarette machines, which is definitely not something that you would see in hospitals these days. There is a lot of Nuka-Cola vending machines in this place, which I think is very interesting. And obviously, talking about replacing all the staff with robots is a very interesting choice. I mean, we know that, autodocs exist certainly in the Mojave area and Big Mountain and the Divide. We do see them, these kind of automatic doctors that can do advanced surgery and all that kind of stuff, which is a fascinating development. And of course, in the real world, there is such a thing as robotic surgery. That is something that exists. It's something that can allow surgeons to do very delicate procedures in a safer way. But the robotic surgery is still controlled by human surgeons, and surgery, like most of medicine, there's no one size fits all solution for any kind of health condition. Anatomy and physiology varies between individuals, and sometimes things can surprise you. And that means that you can't just follow a specific algorithm of cut this, ligate that, remove this, and do the exact same thing every single time and expect the same outcome for every single patient. That's not how surgery is. It's not how medicine is. There's a toaster in the bathroom. Interesting. So there is plenty of medical supplies and stuff to be found in this place, which is nice to have. But yeah, like surgery can be challenging, and as most of you guys know by now, I think I mention it often enough. I was a veterinary surgeon for 15 years. I've since effectively retired from that career. There's a nurse handy.
Excuse me, should you be out of your room?
Yes, I was discharged this morning or something. This one's obviously blocked off. Need to take the elevator up.
Ready or not? Here I come.
Okay. That was kind of weird. Anyway, back to the elevator. So we're gonna head up.
Going down.
Or down. Apparently we're going down. But yeah, so as a vet, I have performed hundreds of surgical procedures in my time on more than a dozen species, including cats, dogs, snakes, lizards, a snail one time. Don't ask. But the thing about surgery is that you do need to be prepared for anything. Things are going to go wonky, go haywire, and surprise you. So you have to think on your feet. I mean, there's certainly one specific story from my
Nice.
career, which I remember, is doing a hind leg amputation in a cat that had a completely mangled broken leg. It was a mess. So none of the anatomy was normal. Everything was displaced and in the wrong position and things. So it was really, really difficult to kind of identify where important structures are. So when you're amputating a limb, there's generally a large artery in the hind leg. It's the femoral artery, and that one comes directly off the aorta, which means the blood pressure in it is pretty much as high as it could possibly be anywhere in the body. This is the morgue, by the way, so you can see it's got a lab set up, and we have some skeletons in their final resting place in the morgue, presumably. But when I was operating on this cat, so when you're amputating the hind leg, you want to get that artery and you want to find it and tie it off before you cut anything, because obviously that could lead to a lot of blood loss. But unfortunately, in this situation, because the anatomy was so mangled, I did cut the femoral artery before I was ready for it, and ended up with blood spraying directly into my face. So, that was something you have to kind of be like, oh no, this happened, and you have to deal with it. And I did manage to do that. And the cat was fine. I got a hold of it, tied it off, finished the procedure. The cat recovered fine. It was all over and done with very quickly. But, it's something that robots and algorithms can't necessarily do.
And serve.
Is have that capacity. Oh, there's somebody hiding in here. What happened to you? Anyway, so it's whether robots are capable, whether AI has the capability to handle a situation like that safely. I have my doubts, but that's what happened in this hospital, and I would be wary of relying entirely on robotic doctors and nurses. So you might be wondering, well, why did they do that in this hospital? I mean, you can see we've got the medical protectron with his defibrillator hands wandering about this place.
Remain calm if you are injured.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Yeah, so the reason that they decided to make this change and get rid of all the human staff, I'm sure you can guess. The world of Fallout is in late stage capitalism before the bombs fell, so it's all about money, because they apparently made record profits after switching to all robotic staff, because
Protect and serve.
robots don't need to get paid. And their maintenance costs would probably be cheaper than what they would have to pay a doctor or a nurse to do the job, so you can understand.
Going up.
And they did make record profits, which was kind of useful for them, because they did have to take on an entire team of lawyers. Is that an urn? That is an urn. To deal with all the complaints that they got after doing this. To cover up and handle the inevitable lawsuits that came about because of this change. And you can see why, many patients that had, if they had a poor outcome or had a problem during their treatment, they had a complaint about what happened, or, if someone died when they probably shouldn't have done, the family might want to make a complaint. And it would be very easy for them to use the argument of, well, if it was a human doctor, this wouldn't have happened. So they would obviously need a good legal team to make all those problems disappear. But despite that, the hospital was still quite popular, and it did have the added benefit of a helipad on the roof, which, is quite handy for delivering airlifted patients. I hate to think how much that would have cost with the massive inflation that existed in the Fallout world. I know that air ambulances are incredibly expensive in the real world, but they do an amazing job. We do have them here in Scotland, especially handy for the more remote remote parts of the Highlands and the islands, like the Hebrides, a lot of the islands off the west coast of Scotland, where getting access to hospitals for emergencies, especially serious or complicated emergencies, could be quite difficult without a helicopter. So that is certainly something that's very, very common here in Scotland, and there's no doubt that it's very, very useful. Oh, that door's obstructed. Yeah, there's a lot of it is kind of blocked off. Like everything's been kind of damaged, but yeah, we've got another ward. I mean, this is, I've definitely seen nicer hospital wards than this. Having 5 beds in this tiny room is a lot. Probably another cost-cutting measure, let's face it. But this hospital did, if you've gone to Jamaica Plain and you found the Treasure of Jamaica Plain, the kind of time capsule sort of museum thing that they've got there, that this hospital donated a few items, including a biometric scanner, and some of their surgical instruments, which is nice. And we can certainly wander through a lot of different locations here, and you can find some first aid kits and plenty of medical supplies. And obviously we found the morgue there as well, and we've come up from there in this elevator, and then we can get through here. We can go through this wall onto this collapsed floor that takes us down to the 2nd floor. There's another deceased person. And bandage scissors and duct tape. That is kind of funny. Was that Docimedics as well? Yeah. That's kind of funny, is you're patching people up with duct tape. I mean, you use what you can get when you're in a pinch, I suppose. But there is a locked room somewhere. I think it's this one. Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, hello. Excuse me.
Protect and serve.
Sure, carry on. Yeah, so we've got this locked room with this lady here who presumably was going to have some kind of procedure done, or had some kind of procedure done. Got a chemistry station, and there is a syringer in here as well, which is quite useful.
Protect and serve.
I think there is some other rooms that we can stick our head into. Oh, I think this might be the one that takes us out to where we were at the parking garage. Yeah, so there is other rooms that I think we can stick our head in. There's a Jangles the Moon Monkey. Nice.
Protect and serve.
If you're looking for like aluminium, certainly surgical trays and things, there's quite a lot of that around this place. But if we keep going through here, brings us to more locations. So this is a kind of overview of reception. A teddy bear in a wheelchair. Nice. And then yeah, we've got another elevator here. So certainly if you're in the market for some Nuka-Cola, this place has got you covered. There is so many Nuka-Cola machines around. And they do respawn their contents, I believe, so you can always stock up on it. Sir,
Please
get out of the way.
Remain calm if you are injured.
Big ice machine as well, which is interesting. But if we come here, we've got this elevator. And this will take us back down to another section of the basement. So you will come to this place if you are doing the Silver Shroud quests with Kent Connolly, who is the guy, he kind of broadcasts the radio plays of the Silver Shroud, and he's based in the Memory Den in Goodneighbour. And if you follow his quests to be the Silver Shroud, which I am actually conveniently dressed up as today, and you come here, this is where St. John will be, holding Kent Connolly, who gets himself kidnapped in the process, and you have to come here to try and save him, which is it's very difficult to save his life, actually. But if you can, then he'll be eternally grateful.
Please Remain
If
calm
you haven't
are
started that
injured.
quest line, then we're going to have all the robots here, and there's a bunch of stuff. Got loads of containers with random loot. Ramen milk, nice. I think that's there because I've got the what do you call it, Slocum's Joe creation kit that lets you make fancy coffees and donuts and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of fun. Yep, and then we've got the usual, the steamer trunk, like pretty much all interiors and dungeons in Fallout 4. There's a steamer trunk near the end. It's just kind of what happens. But there's a lot of useful stuff to pick up in here, and I say the new Coca-Cola machines do respawn their contents regularly enough, so they come in quite handy if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, see, the interesting thing about this place, and there's no terminals or anything, you don't really get to see any of it. I think it would have been interesting if we had something like that. Like maybe, we could go to the hospital manager's office and they've got, complaints about the robots or something that people were complaining, and you get to read some of them. I think that for me would have been just the icing on the cake. Yeah, I think it would have been good to get a bit more of that story in the game of this hospital using specifically robotic doctors and nurses instead of human ones, because most of the information on that actually comes from the guidebook rather than any kind of information in the game. But there is a poster or a billboard somewhere for the hospital where it does say on it, what was it again? Human empathy and robotic precision. So that's kind of their advertising slogan, if you will, for this hospital. It's a very, very interesting one because, like I said, I think robotic surgery can be very, very useful. It is certainly something that is utilised in the real world, but there's always a human surgeon at the helm. There's always human input on these things because, I say, doing surgery, there's a reason that it's considered one of the more challenging disciplines in medicine, because it can be very difficult, and it can also it can be, I'm trying to think, what's the word I'm looking for here? I say it's one of these things where you kind of have to deal with what's in front of you and assess what's in front of you, because every individual's going to be different. And even, if you're treating two patients with the exact same condition, the exact same problem, what works for one isn't necessarily what's going to work for the other one. So you have to have that ability to kind of reason and use experience and make a judgment call rather than just saying, well, if X, then Y, do this, do that, and having a list of instructions, which is essentially, that's what an algorithm is. That's what coding is a list of instructions for the software to follow. So and you can apply a certain amount of logic, but there still needs to be a bit of flexibility and a bit of kind of, I say, using your judgment and being able to make an immediate assessment, because when you're studying for these things, when you're learning to be a surgeon or you're learning to be a doctor or a vet, you spend an awful lot of time learning the normal anatomy and the normal physiology and how it all works. But each individual, there could be variations. I've seen dogs that have a split spleen, so basically they have two small spleens instead of one normal sized spleen. And that's just a normal variation. That's just a variation on the standard. It doesn't do them any harm. It doesn't increase the risk of, splenic tumours or anything like that. They just happen to have two little separate spleens instead of one big one. All these kinds of things, and robots aren't really kind of equipped for that. And certainly, given some of the Gen AI images, most people that know me know that I'm very much against generative AI. I think it's a real problem, and I think it's taken away a lot in terms of the arts and things. But You know, this software still doesn't really know how many fingers are on a human hand or how the human hand is supposed to work. And I know that human artists struggle with drawing hands, but do you really want a piece of software that doesn't really know what normal human anatomy is to be performing surgery and things? It certainly would raise some questions. I certainly don't think we're going to be at the point where we can staff hospitals entirely with robots for quite a long time, if ever. So hopefully it stays that way, because there's certainly dangers in, you know, and trusting these algorithms to practice medicine. It's not going to go well. I can see all the ghouls running about in the parking garage because I never killed them. That's quite funny. But yeah, so that's Milton General Hospital, and that's me covered pretty much this entire little area. So we'll be heading to another part of the Commonwealth from next week, and on Saturday we are going to be talking about Vault 19 and Fallout New Vegas, and the psychology behind what happened there and what Vault Tech was trying to do. So that vault was the one where you had the two different kind of factions, the red and the blues, and they were basically trying to kind of influence people into becoming paranoid and things, and it kind of worked pretty well. So we're going to get stuck into a lot of that on Saturday, and I'm hoping that by early next week I will have the Ulysses deep dive video ready to go. It's almost there. I've just got a few last things to record and then to piece it all together. I think that one's going to be very, very interesting. And I did post a little kind of note in the community tab, just really looking for some thoughts, because when it comes to the science of Fallout, which has been the kind of mainstay of my channel up to now, I'm kind of running out of scientific topics to discuss in Fallout, so I've been having to think about where I go from there and what things are going to look like on the channel. I don't know whether maybe doing less frequent uploads but doing longer and more in-depth videos would be better, whether that's something that you guys would enjoy. They would take a bit more work to make, I think, but I'm hoping that, you know, that would mean that the quality is better, and I'm always looking to try and improve how I'm doing things to make this as, you know, fun and entertaining as it can be for you guys. So if you have any thoughts on that, or whether, you know, you'd be interested in seeing me branch out into other games. Again, I've focused much of this on Fallout, which is my favourite game series, but there's certainly plenty of other games that I do enjoy playing, and digging into lore stuff and, you know, potentially some science stuff could be quite fun if that's something that you guys would be interested in. But yeah, so if you do have any thoughts, then feel free to share them in the comments on that post or in the comments of this video. I'm always happy to kind of look into things, and I say I'm just wondering how best to proceed to make the channel continually make the channel better and make it more interesting and entertaining for everybody, so that I can continue talking about what I love, because that's why I'm here, really. So let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.